And the Hold My Pen Promptcast is live for episode 3, part 2.
I love that. Part 2. Because of all of you,
Dos.
we have to have a part 2. Not
Zwei.
that we're complaining about that. Not.
Holy cow.
We,
Twitch and YouTube
what?
are in sync on my computer.
Shush, we don't talk about it. Shush. I love you, but shush. We don't talk about it. Because once we talk about it, you know what happens. Any hoozles. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hold My Pen Promptcast. How's your Sundays going? Hope everybody is doing all right. Share it out to all social medias, and let's see how many people we can get in here tonight. Typically for Sunday we don't draw as big of a crowd. Thank you. I finally found my hair ties. They were on my desk, but I did finally find my hair ties. Yeah, but share them out to all social medias, all Facebook groups. Let's see how many people we can get over here tonight. We usually run a little bit smaller on Sundays because it's Sunday, but it's like we need to keep the party going. Especially since we had a very big outpour yesterday. And we've got one submitter in particular that now has some feral fans. Everybody like nodding in unison.
Yep. That was an experience. That wasn't a story. That was an experience. Is what that was.
That felt like a very interactive story.
Well,
kind of like what?
We were the voyeurs.
Yes, very much so.
We got dragged in whether we wanted to or not before we knew what was happening.
You can't even say we got dragged in kicking and screaming on that one. We literally were standing in the middle of a scene before we ever knew what the hell was going on.
That's what was great about it.
Yeah, that definitely gave us a whole new perspective on the writing. Drooling and blushing. I was not drooling. I might have been blushing. I was not drooling.
I plead the fifth on the grounds that it may incriminate me.
We are talking. We might. Yes, we're very much talking about her.
What is going on?
Julie did not have a little bit of drool. Julie, no, safe words. Ace! Bad ace! Bad ace! Okay, any boozles.
I have to say is green.
We're gonna start off making Julie blush tonight. I mean, really?
Why not?
Okay, but probably because knowing the lineup the way I know the lineup, we have some heavy hitters. For whatever reason, we either have horror on the first night and emotional damage on the second night, or we have emotional damage on the first night and horror on the second night, because that's just the way these freaking props have been playing us. And Izzy already has the duct tape handy. All right. Izzy, you want
Ace,
to spiel, and then I'll roll.
Ace brought up the tape. You said something
Please.
about making sure the tape stays on the mouse. This tape, this tape. I'm sorry. I'm in a mood.
No, the tape that stays on the mouse so you can tell the difference between the mice. Uh, but he did earlier say something about keeping your duct tape and stuff inside the podcast at all times. Any bahoozles, as you all know, if you've been here for 5 minutes, you kind of already know what's going on. If you followed us for any amount of time, but for the newbies that might be lurking out there in Cyberland, I am your host, Julie DeFisher, author of Destined for More and Crossroads, 2 different series. Go check them out. Amazon, available everywhere. Right next to me, I hope I'm pointing in the damn right direction this time. You have my absolute bestie co-host. Couldn't do this damn show without her because she's tech support. Izzy Krause. Izzy's also a very much up and coming author when she has the time to sit down and write her own stuff and not just ogle at our stuff. So when she gets around to it, she gets around to it. Yeah, she's got the shelf. See Vanna White, the shelf. And then right below us, you have Ash Butler, author of some very amazing epic fantasies. That will hopefully something will be coming out this year. We don't know when, but we will let you know when that does happen.
Crossing my fingers.
Crossing fingers, it'll be out before December. Let's just put it that way. Crossing your fingers, it'll be out before December.
My goal is October 1st, just like last year. I think I have good enough time.
I think you do too. Honestly, I think you do too. Right now, our other 2 hosts or co-hosts that are usually here, PA Power and CR McCormick, are not here tonight.
Otherwise
Charge,
engaged.
yeah, everybody's got lives. We're all good.
Except apparently me and Julie.
Yeah. Look, this is my life. I wanted this to work.
Fine.
It's working. We're fine with it.
We're fine with it.
I mean, we go to book conventions.
We do.
That's getting out of the box.
Hopefully this time I'll actually walk away with books that aren't mine. And Patrick's doesn't count. We plan on trading anyway. But I'm gonna actually walk away with at least one book that isn't mine. And with Kesh saying that, letting you know that me, Izzy, and Patrick will be at Simple Signings in Roanoke, Virginia on March 7th and 8th. If you have the ability to get there, then you get to come meet us in person. Patrick is the table holder, and we will be there to support Patrick. I will be Patrick's PA for the weekend, and Izzy will be, as always, our hype girl because that's what Izzy does. Izzy is our hype girl. Izzy is our cheerleader. Izzy's the one that rolls her eyes at me when I say, "Hey, I've got an idea." There's usually
no, I'm not getting the cheerleader skirt out because I had to return it at the end of my season.
Don't mess with me. I will get your measurements and have another one made.
Nope.
With the my pen Promptcast colors.
We may talk.
Okay.
I'll wear it.
Cash will wear it. Got the 2 cheerleaders. Okay. Either which way. Izzy, do you have anything that you want to?
Other than the fact that we are continuing January Fresh Inc., where all of our submissions are being read out anonymously. They will be revealed at the end of the last January show on February 1st. You are able to say that you want to remain anonymous. Number 19, I'm going to be working on you so that way we all can revel in the gloriousness um and that being said, even though they are being written out anonymously, we have the receipts as to who wrote what. So our stories presented by our authors who have given us permission to read these out loud and our voices are not to be used to train AI.
Izzy, you're being asked to get closer to the mic because you're really soft.
I'm also talking lower than I normally do, volume wise.
Right.
Okay.
It's like you're coming in clear over here, but apparently Bitzer says you're coming in soft.
Gotcha.
Okie
I've had a
dokie.
bit of a day.
Oh, I'm
Understand.
sorry.
Well,
It's just disassociating and not wanting to do anything but listen to Stray Kids and stare at my wallpapers, which are now Stray Kids, and move my mouse cursor around, which is now Stray Kids.
I can't say
Hyperfixate much?
that I did the whole disassociation thing today too, along with but mine was the shorts stories and stuff like that, and I'm still waiting on a baby horse to be born.
I wish I
Anybody?
could have disassociated.
Well, my gremlin spent a good bit of the day watching movies and just wanting to be tickled and play and stuff like that. So it was real easy to just veg for a couple of hours. So we're good. But we're
Test,
gonna go
test,
ahead and
test.
roll. Test. What?
Well, because of some of the rebroadcast stuff, I had lowered my mic a bit, my volume. Is that better?
Bitzer said, very good test.
Cool.
Okay.
Actually, Ace, I figured out today that Kieran is actually my first stray kid because he's literally a stray cat that a coworker picked up, put in a thing, and brought over. So, yeah, stray cats, stray kids. I have way more kids than what I actually birthed. Call me mom. So it's just it's on point for me.
It's on brand.
So,
all right.
If you are ready, Julie.
First off, I just want to give everybody like a 2-minute warning because I'm fixing to spread the wheel. Go get your snacks, your drinks, your hankies, your stress balls, your fuzzy blankets, comfort item of choice. Because I was told today that every time somebody tried to get up to go get something to eat, they couldn't because everything was like too engaging. And we don't want anybody going hungry. Like, that's not the point. Like, if you have to, pause us. We'll be here when we get back. Maybe. Okay. So now that was said, while I spin the wheel, go get your stuff. Oh, I turned the... Submitter 12.
Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
Lightning in a bottle. She woke up to the sound of her phone ringing, and the caller ID was a name she hadn't seen in years. Mia groaned. throwing her hair over her back and squinting at the screen. Her eyes suddenly popped wide and she sat up, the covers flinging forward. Sarah! Her breath rushed out all at once, and her hand slapped her bare chest, then scrambled frantically for the blanket pooled in her lap. Hey, how are you? Haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on? I heard you were on a date last night. Mia cringed, her gaze slipping to the side as a flood of broken memories rushed back. She turned, flinging her legs over the side of the bed. Her voice lowered. Do we have to talk about this right now? Yes, Sarah said on the other side. Just because I moved away doesn't mean you can just cut me out of the circle. Karen doesn't get first and all dibs on gossip. How did you even find out? Mia groaned, sinking toward her knees and fishing around on the floor for anything long sleeved and suitable for the cool morning air. David. You've got to be kidding me, she grumbled, turning slightly to look back across the bed at the pile of blankets. She frowned and then turned back, searching around her feet once more. Look, I was going to tell you. I swear. Can we please talk about this later? Mia. Her jaw tensed, her hand tightening on her phone. That was the last tone she'd wanted to hear. Who are you talking to? The blankets rustled, and his arm slid along her side and wrapped around her waist. Before she could say a word, kisses pressed up her spine, over her shoulder, and along her neck. It's early. Sarah, she whispered, bending away and gently pushing his head back. Leave me alone. Ken's brow furrowed as he watched her twist the blanket around herself and shimmied to her feet. Her face burned a brilliant red as she tried to balance the phone on her shoulder. A smile slid over his features as he eased back and made himself comfortable. Mia wasn't as graceful as she wanted to believe, and it was a matter of time before she tripped and thump. She growled as her knees hit the floor and a hand rose from the blanket toga, gripping the doorframe. No, I'm fine. Yes, I really am. Sarah, no, don't say that. Tell her I said hi, Ken called from the bed, waving a hand with a grin. Mia rose to her feet, a scowl on her face, as she turned slowly. Her phone, tight in her fist, flashed a bright light. He says hi. She knows I'm here? He looked over, a bit surprised. Obviously, Ken, she snapped and stormed into the bathroom. The door slammed shut, and her muffled conversation seemed less angry than she had been a half second earlier. Embarrassment had a way of riling her fury. Shit, he chuckled to himself, throwing an arm over his face. He would hear the third and fourth hand accounts from David and Tanner later when gossip circled among their friends. No doubt there would be plenty of questions for which he wouldn't have many answers. The date went well. The restaurant was beautiful, the wine was perfect, and the 24 shots after that were even better. By the time they were back at his car, they sat there laughing for a long time, realizing neither of them was in any position to drive, pointing fingers at who was to blame. They were stuck and going nowhere for a while. Then he had a brilliant idea. David worked at the place just down the road. He could drive them back. And he did. They sat in the back seat, laughing and teasing each other for being too drunk straight, and how poorly this was anticipated. David promised to bring the car back in the morning, but Ken had no idea when exactly that would be or what David considered morning. Regardless, he and Mia stumbled up the stairs, through the halls, and to his apartment. It was meant to be a drink of some water, a pillow on the couch, and a movie for the night. But then she spilled, and she needed a shower. He didn't have much in the way of clothes to offer her, but Mia had made a habit of leaving a handful of clothes nearly anywhere she went. Before he could toss her one of his shirts, she'd pulled from seemingly nowhere one of her old tank tops and a pair of shorts. Neither was suitable for how cold he kept his home, and he tried to warn her about that. She didn't listen. It's fine, she said, coming out of the bathroom. her hair brushed and his hoodie pulled over for a little warmth more manageable than a blanket. Right, I'll call you later, I promise. All right, bye. She hung up and sheepishly meandered back to the bed and plopped down on the side with her back to Ken. Mia stroked her fingers through her hair and pulled it over her shoulder, twisting it into a loose braid. Can I ask you something? Always, he said softly. Was was last night wrong? Trying to drive was technically illegal. Ken, she breathed, disappointed by his blatant avoidance of the real issue. You know what I'm talking about. After I came home with you, he slid his arm from his face and looked at her. His bright blue eyes reflected the faint rise of the sun coming through the window between the curtains. Mia sucked in a breath, her chest rising as she shifted to face him squarely. He turned onto his side and reached to her, taking her hand, focusing on the delicate twist of her fingers around his rather than her face. There were countless nights that he had thought the most devious things. He'd dreamed of kissing her just once, of holding her and feeling her breathe softly, and making those weird, happy noises she made when she was excited. Last night was more than he could have ever asked for. I can't tell you if it was wrong, Mia. Do you think it was? No. Really? He looked up from beneath his brow, a mischievous smirk rising in the corner of his lips. I don't go to the gym every day to let myself go to waste and have no one appreciate it, darling. You say that like I'm supposed to be impressed. I've seen better men try. Try what? He interrupted, pulling her down and dragging her into his arms. Mia gasped as his hands slid along her back. The heat from his bare chest greeted her as if he'd been waiting for her the entire time she was gone. She restrained the gleeful laughter threatening to well up and pushed back from him. Kenneth Jacobs, are you trying to make a move on me? If I were, is it working? He growled, dragging her back in. You said I was only your girlfriend for one night, she protested thinly, a small giggle escaping as he kissed along her jaw into the corner of her lips. I also said you're not going to break up with me. You technically broke up with me. He stopped, rolling slightly to look her in the eyes. I never technically did anything other than take my girlfriend out on a date last night. Ken, Mia, he rasped, pulling her tight to him, hand dragging down her back to her thigh. You said for one night, and now it's morning. Ken! He stopped and shifted back, an expression somewhere between shock and hurt reflecting her own. I'm sorry, I just were too afraid to actually ask me on a date? She quirked an eyebrow. Did you think I would say no? We've been friends for such a long time, and would you have said no? Mia bit her lower lip. Would she have said no? Maybe. She certainly would have had to think about it a little longer than helping him with the crazy ex, who made 0 appearances. And she certainly would have spent more time thinking about it than how long she'd spent thinking about climbing into his shower, drunk and uncoordinated. Maybe then it would have prevented her from not thinking twice about crawling into bed with him, wetter than a drowned rat. Of course, she considered, would he have held her when she was shivering? Would he have been brave enough under any other circumstances to kiss her beneath a mountain of blankets with no sort of urgency, which had, in turn, sparked a dire need within her? Probably not. And in that case, she wouldn't have dared to whisper the things she did, and they wouldn't have had the night they did, albeit far more innocent than she'd expected, but wonderful all the same. Last night, she started slowly. You said you'd had a crush on me when we were kids. Did you really, or were you just saying that? I did, he admitted as swiftly as he had in the small hours. I thought about you all the time, but I didn't really make sense of it until college. It was just a moment of having my head on my shoulders, and I realized it. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you? Because you were Kenneth Jacobs, superstar, Mr. Popularity, class president, and athlete of the year every year. How was I supposed to approach you? The nerd from class 2B? That would have been wickedly embarrassing for the both of us. We were friends. We are friends, he quickly amended. You could have told me. You can tell me anything, Mia. Anything. Mia bit the corner of her lip, her fingers sliding along his collar and then tracing circles along his bare chest. Anything? She hummed. I want to break up with you. You don't mean that. Yes, I do. She looked up at him, something wild playing in her dark eyes. You used me to deceive your ex, who never even showed up, then got me drunk and took me home for absolutely nothing. It wasn't nothing. Silence! She slammed her finger against his lips. You had every opportunity, and you didn't take it. I offered, and you turned me down. If you ask me, that seems like our relationship was really on the rocks since it was an anniversary date. What sort of boyfriend doesn't make a move on their girlfriend when she stays over? One, that doesn't count. One that doesn't on a first date, he muttered around her finger. It was an anniversary date, which was also the first. And the last. Mia. Nope, it's over, Ken, she said, though her voice was a bit too cheerful. But now that I'm single, I was wondering if, since we've been friends for such a long time and I know you're single, if you'd want to go out on a date sometime. Mia, he growled, pulling her in, a laugh bubbling up from his chest. You're not breaking up with me and then turning around and asking me on a date with you. And why not? She said in a dangerously sultry tone. Because, he said, thinking it over carefully, our date has ended. It isn't over until you're home. And then I can break up with you? Absolutely not, he whispered, slipping his fingers beneath her chin and dragging her into a delicate kiss. Both knew she wouldn't truly break up with him, not after that. She would be a fool to do anything less than invite him in and prolong their so-called date for another day, another evening, another night. Mia smiled, curling into him and letting the warm aroma of his skin and cologne wash over her. For the first time in a long while, she felt content and safe. There was no demand, no push for something more. Ken was easy, comfortable, and always there. He asked very little of her, except maybe her presence. Would it be so bad to continue dating him, even just for a while? She wondered. A loud vibration interrupted her thoughts, and she lifted her head. The phone on the nightstand danced along the smooth surface with each ring. She sat up and grabbed the device. Oh, great. It's David. She hit the answer button and held the phone between them. Hey, Dave, what's going on? On the other end, static crackled through, then a heavy thud, and finally he replied in a wild huff. Is Ken there? We have a problem. And it sliced your tires. Dun dun dun. I guess the crazy ex did show up.
There's always that one person that has the crazy ex. But
I mean, to be
but
fair, I think it was the first submission where you find out that the crazy ex, when he tried to break up with her, stabbed him.
Stabbed him.
yeah,
So
that's a little beyond crazy. That's
That's
yeah,
psychotic in a couple of forms.
yeah, very.
Oh my god.
I don't know how I'd handle that type of situation.
Usually with my own stabbies, but that's just me.
Yeah.
And yet
Unhinged.
again, we start the night off with Smexy Smexy.
Yeah, I know, right? That's that's so funny that both first stories are like that tone.
Very much
Though
so.
last night was over the top. I'm sorry, like in a beautiful way. But this was gorgeous. I'm loving where this one's going.
I'm hoping that there's a chapter in between there with a few more details.
Yeah.
Okay. Here
All
we
right,
go.
who's next?
Who's the next?
Victim.
I wasn't gonna say that. Smitter 7.
A large group of men and women gathered around a table in a hall, each different in their own ways and clans. Some were seated and tense, while others were shouting across the table at each other, pointing and accusing. Many of the herbivores are closer to the doors, while the carnivores sat closer to a wall of weapons. The leaders of the tigers was leaned over the table, shoulders tense like he was waiting to strike. The leader of the deers was hiding, fidgeting hands behind her back. Selena leaned against the wall in the middle of the room, a straight path to the door if needed. Noah on the other side of the room from her. The meeting of the Council of Supernatural Beings had begun. Selena had meant to play into her childish heiress act a bit longer, but in a time like this, she needed to stay alert of the surroundings. Playing the casual, laughing lioness was good and all, but it only worked for so long. It kept her out of her father's eye when he couldn't predict her next move, but she needed more focus on the new parties at play. Noah Steele was an enigma in this game. He was calm and controlled, much like her father. He didn't let people see his emotions. Someone she couldn't read. Someone dangerous. The death of Sebastian Steele is exactly why we need to focus on protection, Miriam, the leader of the Deer Shifters, exclaimed. The clan that was always on the side of pacifism, even when the situation clearly called for a bit of violence. The lot were a bunch of tree hugging, leaf munching creatures with their tails between their legs. A lion wouldn't be caught dead deciding to be a pacifist when claws were more convenient. Even her tightwad father wouldn't go that far. We need to make known our intentions to retaliate before the trail scent dies. Grayson, the tiger shifter leader, stabbed at the table with his finger. This is why you carnivores can't be trusted. Always jumping into a fight. Cassandra, leader of the guerrilla shifters. What happened to loyalty among our people in the same hemisphere? When did borders start dividing us? Grayson shot back at Cassandra. When you carnivores started crossing them without permission, Cassandra rumbled, her breath shooting out of her mouth forcefully. If we do nothing, it just makes us look weak, Devon, the leader of the bear shifters, stated. We can't have more shifters die. There's already been cases of them going missing for the past year. The numbers haven't even been fully verified yet, the leader of the rabbit shifters squeaked out. Selena's eyebrow twitched at the revelation. She hadn't known about the shifters going missing. Her gaze flicked over to watch Noah's expression, only to be both disappointed and on edge at the lack of emotion on his face. Most people were on guard before the event, Selena asked. Her voice echoed for the leaders to hear and pause a moment. They glanced at her before their gazes stopped at Noah. Miriam's eyes met Noah's before glancing back to the table. Cassandra squinted and puffed out her chest. Grayson met Noah's gaze steadily. There wasn't any reports of a breach from my members, Noah said. So either someone was paid off or the messenger was allowed through, someone at the table muttered. Then the councilman joined the rising volume of argument, each shifter accusing another, none coming to any sort of agreement. Even her own father became more heated than she had ever seen him, which was only raising his voice a bit in comparison to the others. Wow, you guys really don't get it, Selena yawned. Some of the shifters arguing halted to look at her. She walked to the front of the table. It doesn't matter who did what or when if the messenger of the letter was allowed inside in the first place. So I ask you all, who among us would invite our own foe to our party? Several of the carnivores stared at her like they had never seen her before. The herbivores avoided her gaze as she met each of the leaders' gazes. Several omnivores refused to meet her gaze, but only one stared at Noah instead. Noah watched her with silent precision, his breath steady and shoulders straight. If entry was granted, then it doesn't matter who opened the door if we thought it was safe to begin with, a omnivore shifter stated conspiratorially. Councilman Elijah announced that the wolf shifters were to be inspected closely as they were on watch. Her father had basically volunteered Selena to be paired with Noah to watch over the wolves while they investigated. Her father's look of desperation blatant on his face. Selena hid her look of disgust at his attempts to pair her once more. To him, it was all optics. Who he could impress and who he could sell his own daughter off to. Is why she pulled her pranks. No one wanted to deal with a childish mate. Selena held Noah's gaze as if she could challenge him to refuse, her mind secretly screaming at him to just say, hell the fuck no. Except his mouth stayed closed, and her father took that as approval, thus moving on to the plans to close ranks on their borders. Selena stared at the corner of the room by the door, waiting for the rest of the meeting to end, and in a blur, hands were being shook and goodbyes were being said. Then it was just Noah and Selena, alone in the meeting room. He shifted subtly, his presence something she was acutely aware of. She turned. You didn't argue. A bland statement in her mouth, hiding all her internal emotions. If I did, they would think I needed permission, he replied. She fought a smirk. He seemed to have good answers to everything. Selena studied him quietly. The wolf had taken the arguments in stride, not letting the accusations cow him. "M- My father and his councilman friends will insist on this being a courtship," she stated, "maybe even a guarantee." The way I see it, this is surveillance and leverage, Noah shot back. Her mouth twitched. Sly wolf. My father believes proximity breeds intimacy, which then brings inevitability, she said. He wants me married, obedient and silent. Noah's gaze met hers. What do you think? She stared intensely into his eyes. Proximity will reveal a person's true nature. The silence that followed settled around them like a settled kitten in a warm spot of sunlight, followed by silent observing. Noah exhaled slowly. I could have refused. And yet you didn't. I didn't, he agreed, because whoever let that messenger in is closer to me than I like to admit, and it irks me. If they are watching, then the first thing they would expect would be the Wolf Clan under close watch. Selena's nails bit into her palm, the pain a welcomed distraction. You know I won't protect you against my father. He likely will thoroughly investigate your entire clan, maybe even accusing you, she said, voice low. Wouldn't ask you to. I won't sugarcoat what I see. Don't need you to. She took a moment to watch him, his unflinching eyes, and like he decided to take on the worst of the situation. Good. Then we have an understanding. She turned to leave. The wolves are going to mess with you, Noah stated. I expect they would. They are going to test you. Already are. Selena peeked over her shoulder into Noah's cold, calculating gaze. And we find the one who let the messenger in? We will learn whether this was simply betrayal or manic worship. His voice held a cold steadiness. Selena smiled then, sharp and predatory. Good, she said. I really hoped this wouldn't be boring. I won't ask you to trust me, but don't expect me to fail. I intend on surviving this, Noah said. You say that like I am supposed to be impressed. I've seen better men try. Selena then walked out of the hall and gave the grizzly-sized man a casual wave before leaving to find her brother and friend. Dun, dun.
Okay, just a few things. One, this gives the character a new element that where before we were like, no, this character is very childish, everything like that. It's like, no, there's a reason for that. She does not want to be mated. She does not want to be fucking tied down, and she certainly doesn't want anybody to telling her what the fuck she's gonna do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, bravo to that. Using circumstances and her ability to pull pranks and shit like that as her way out. I mean, she literally in this scene became less mean girl and a little bit more strategic.
Yeah.
I love watching these characters develop. I love it. Love it. Okay, who's the next submitter 20?
June 15, 2022, Galaxy Hotel, Sarton, Texas. Other than the shower, air conditioning, and the actual bed, the free continental breakfast was always Kai's favorite thing about Haley's job. He made a waffle, covered it with strawberries and whipped cream. Then on another plate took a heaping scoop of eggs, 6 sausage links, and 4 strips of bacon. After carrying that to a table, he returned to the breakfast bar for an orange juice and a cup of coffee. Kai watched the delicious black brew swirl into a light brown as he poured in 4 little cups of vanilla-flavored creamer. Haley was already sitting at the table with a mouthful of eggs when he returned. He settled into his seat, picked up his coffee, and took a careful sip. Nectar of the gods, he praised, favoring the robust flavor. This is so much better than that instant crap. Did you get a cup yet? Kai glanced at the table in front of Haley. She had no drink at all. No, I'll get one when I go back for seconds. She cut a large piece of her waffle and folded it in half to stuff it into her mouth. Syrup dripped from it and dribbled down her chin, landing on her shirt. Shit! Every time. Haley got up from her seat and made her way back to the breakfast bar to get napkins. She wet the napkin with water from the drink fountain and gently dabbed the sticky liquid from her clothing. When she sat back down, Kai handed her his cup of coffee. You could use a cup now. I'll go make another. Thanks, she replied. Maybe with a little more caffeine, my brain will actually turn on this morning. Yeah, I better make you 2 cups then, Kai joked. Haley made a face at him and acted like she was going to throw her crumpled napkin in his direction. Haley never talked about how work went, and Kai never asked. He knew what she did, and she knew how he felt about it. That was all the conversation they needed to have. Whenever he waited for her in the lobby, Kai would look at every man leaving the hotel alone, wondering if he'd been the one. It disgusted him to think about the kinds of creeps Haley had to put up with, and the thought of someone demeaning her or taking advantage of her filled Kai with a murderous rage. This was why it was best they didn't talk about it. He already wanted to kill that asshole Jared for getting Haley involved in this life to begin with. After they finished eating and checked out of the room, they stepped out into the early morning sun. Kai groaned. Why did it already have to be over 100 fucking degrees? He thought. Haley pulled a pair of sunglasses out of her pocket and put them on. Can I bum a smoke? She asked. Sorry, I'm out. I made almost $30 yesterday, though. How much did you make? 300, she replied with a smirk. Okay, so dinner is on you. I'll get cigarettes. I don't feel like waiting. I wish Uber took cash, Haley complained. Kai rushed in front of her, kneeled down, and used his thumb to point to his back. Hop on. No way, you're silly. Haley crossed her arms, but couldn't keep the corners of her mouth from turning up. Fine. Kai turned around, picked her up off the ground, and slung her over his shoulder like she weighed nothing at all. She let out a playful scream as he took off running across the parking lot. Ow, ow, ow! Okay, that's enough! The bouncing is hurting my ribs! Haley exclaimed. Kai stopped and brought her to the ground gently. He'd never had a friend like her. From the moment he decided to run, she'd helped him. They had some hard times, addiction, homelessness, and hunger, but they'd overcome the worst of it, together. All things considered, his life was pretty good now, thanks to her. Of course, it would be better with a job, an apartment, and a clean criminal record, but it could be so much worse. Sometimes he regretted agreeing to let her run with him. She could have stayed at her mom's place in Louisiana and had a roof over her head, food to eat. But he didn't want to be alone, so he'd let her come. It had been a selfish decision. But if there was one thing he knew about his best friend, it was that she'd never take no for an answer. When they reached the gas station, Haley went to the bathroom while Kai grabbed 2 large bottles of water, the ones with the sport tops, and a pack of Haley's preferred cigarette. Bob took the payment, put everything in a bag, and slid it across the counter. Have a good one, son, he said with a wave. You too. See you later, Kai called as he pushed the door open and fished out the pack of cigarettes from the grocery sack. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. Sorry. He smacked the top of the pack against his palm a few times, then tore off the cellophane wrapper and opened the box. He pulled out a cigarette, flipped it upside down, and slid it back into the pack. Then he selected one from the other side of the box. Haley joined him as he patted his pockets for a lighter, but came up empty-handed. Oh my God, I completely forgot about flipping the lucky. Holy shit. I ain't fucking flipped a lucky in years. I'm not going back to it. But anyway, sorry. Memory lane. Yeah. That just seems like extra work, and it wasn't very lucky for me anyway. Here, I have one. Haley pulled a yellow Bic from her pocket and struck it. Kai leaned the cigarette into the flame and drew in until the first hint of a cherry appeared. He handed the lit cigarette to Haley and pulled out another for himself. They finished smoking at the edge of the parking lot before heading back out to the road. Kai's lungs weren't as strong as they used to be, and he found smoking and walking at the same time damn near impossible. The sun beat down on them as they made their way back down FM 331. Haley had visible tan lines from the straps of her tank top, and her shoulders were slightly red. I think you're getting burned. Maybe tomorrow we should bring the umbrella or pick up some sunscreen, Kai suggested. Tomorrow we should go to the laundromat. Maybe Grace will drive us. I'll call her when we get back and ask. Then maybe I can go to the library and fill out some more job applications. Eventually, one of the places I apply to will actually be hiring, right? Her voice was heavy with exasperation. She'd applied for every listing on various job search websites. She turned in applications for every fast food place with a now hiring sign, and she'd gotten not a single phone call from a prospective employer. He wished he could help more. She knew about his special circumstances, why he couldn't be the one to get a job, and she never held it against him. It made him feel like a real piece of shit, though, watching her struggle and do questionable things for the money to get them by. The money she just made would last them a couple weeks if they were frugal. They'd already cut back on their smoking habit from a pack each every 2 days to one shared pack. They frequented the food bank, taking only the non perishables or things they planned to eat that day. The warehouse came into view, and Kai could see the others sitting by the fire ring they'd built out of an old metal barrel and some bricks from the collapsed building on the property. Sometimes, when they had wood, the fire was suitable for cooking, but most of the time they were burning garbage. It was an effective method of waste management, but didn't make the place smell great. Kai went inside to empty the money from his pockets into the stash can he used to keep his drugs in. It was made to look like a large can of baked beans. He unscrewed the bottom, put his money in the can, and then stuffed a pair of underwear into it to keep the coins from jingling and to deter sticky fingers. He put the stash back into their food box and moved some other cans on top of it. Haley was still outside with her phone pressed to her ear. Kai decided not to interrupt and laid down on his sleeping bag instead. He thought about their plans for tomorrow and about getting a ride from Grace. He knew Haley's friend didn't care for him much. Whenever they were together, it was awkward. Everything Grace said to him was a backhanded compliment, and she was always trying to get Haley to come stay with her, an invitation that never extended to him. Why would it, though? Grace wasn't his friend, she was Haley's, and although she wouldn't admit it, he knew she only refused her friend's offer because she was worried about him. Just another reason for him to feel like shit. Dun, dun, dun!
Short but sweet. Very well written. It's very good in the description with like their experiences being on the street, it sounds like, or hotel living.
Yeah, no, the only reason she had the hotel was because she had a John.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're living in the warehouse.
That hadn't sunk in yet. Sometimes I gotta process stories.
You're good. Dunion rings? Oh, God bless America. I could use some onion rings right about now. Okay, well, all sexiness with me and Ken has been thrown out the window with Haley and Kai's experiences, but it's fine.
Let's see who's
next. Who's next?
next. Submitter 1. Way to kiss the mood. Yeah, I know.
All right, here we go. Dear love, it's been so long since we last saw each other. Wait, no.
Did you?
Hold on. Ah ha 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 ha. I gotta go down further. There it is. Landing on top of a massive fish tank that flowed through the city, Jax analyzed the people below while Derek called his boss. Did you find her? Their boss asked. No, sir. We're still looking for her. Seems like she knows how to disappear, Derek replied. Then why are you wasting my time? Go find her before time runs out. Send me her record, sir. I will not. The photo and address is the only info you will get. Now, go be of use and find her, their boss yelled, hanging up the phone. Taking a seat, Derek pulled out a pad and searched for all the information he could find on Rose, with little to nothing coming up besides her name and address. How is there little to nothing on this woman? Everyone leaves a footprint of some kind. Derek huffed. Firewall, Jax replied. Tag, you're it, he said, poking Jax on the shoulder. Pulling out his own pad, Jack spent a few minutes that soon turned into a few hours of breaking down the firewalls to Rose's files. Derek checked his watch and saw it was 3 a.m. Watching the underground people continue on with their lives, being out and about, the difference between day and night made no difference. The city was just as bright as it was when they went to Rose's house earlier. You think the old hag lied and was not the actual bittersweet rail, but some other place with the same name? Derek asked. Why? Jax replied. Well, if she always goes to the bittersweet sweet rail on run days, then we would have seen her on those cameras, no? The train is a common way to get from one place to another. Plus, this underground dump is just as large as the cities above. Ah! Derek looked up, making eye contact with Jax. A moment of excitement filled Derek, and with that, he stood up, glancing at the pad to see more information about Rose. To their surprise, there was still a minimum amount of data on her, yet they had enough to help their investigation. You think this man she was talking to might know where she is? Derek asked. Uh-huh. All right, lead the way, he said, patting Jax on the back. Jax twisted his watch till he found his motorcycle. He tapped the watch, causing the vehicle to appear atop the fish tank. Hopping on, they flew from one city to the next, flying through the forest fields with ease as the people below rioted. Throwing objects at the shield, they bounced off. The force field rippled red, then returned to blue. Each time they entered a new city, the force field rippled green when they passed through. Landing on top of a clear, floating street, Jax drove on the ground for another 20 minutes till he parked in front of a house that looked like a cluster of see-through bubbles. Well, that looks like trash. Is this an attempt to distinguish themselves from those below? Derek scoffed. Tisk tisk. Walking down the driveway, eyes watched from the houses surrounding them. Violent intent filled the air as the two of them got closer. Keep your guard up, Derek hissed. Reaching for the pad, Jax noticed the door was left open. Pushing it open, a house lay in ruins. Letters were scattered across the house as a thick layer of dust covered the disaster before them. What kind of freak are we dealing with again? Derek asked. Parasite, Jax stuttered. Fuck this shit. Wouldn't want to catch the virion that comes from this thing. A hazmat suit would be good right about now. You didn't, forget it, Jax replied. Derek placed his mask over his face before brushing a layer of dust off a letter and reading it. Dear love, it's been so long since we last saw each other. Blah, blah, blah. Sincerely, Rose. Derek read, pausing to check Jack's reaction before moving to the next letter. My beloved, I need your help, please. The topsiders are onto me. Blah, blah, blah. Yours truly, Lucy. Tisk, tisk, filth. You're telling me, buddy. Derek scoffed. Pulling out their cameras, they added the photos to a joint file as they reluctantly collected the relevant evidence. Dips. Killing, Jax claimed. Now we're talking. I'll let you have the kill if you save the sweet beating for me. Uh-huh. Definitely topsider pigs. Just look at their outfits and the way they act. True demons that need to be killed, a young girl commanded. Behind her were older people of various ages, following her demands as they attacked. I wouldn't do that, miss. We don't want you getting hurt, Derek said gently. Topsiders don't care for the children, only your power and ability to keep us in this hell. We die from your hands every second. Your soft lies mean nothing when we won't obey, the little girl replied. She watched from the door as the two men killed those who attacked them, damaging the house even more in the process. A bloodbath dripped between holes onto the people from below. The people flooded into the house, causing Derek and Jax to leave a pile of corpses in their wake. As the numbers dwindled, both glanced toward the door and noticed the girl was gone, momentarily acknowledging the event before them. A structural shift caused everyone to freeze, weapons at the ready, though the hesitation caused everyone to look from one another as Jax and Derek leaned on each other's backs. Kill them! A man yelled. Everyone ran at Derek and Jax at once, causing the house to fall. As speed picked up, the attackers flew to the ceiling or through the holes. The men stood there with their gravity shoes, leaving them firmly in place. With that, they ran out of the front door just as the bubble popped and everything scattered in the air. All the objects crashed onto the people, leaving various people screaming and crying as they mourned those they lost. Derek held on to Jax as he gripped the hoverboard with one hand and Jax with the other. Did I ever tell you I hated this dump? Derek laughed. Creating a swinging motion, he created enough momentum to throw Jax above the hoverboard. Landing on top of it, Jax positioned himself and glanced at Derek's hands, gripping both sides from the bottom. With that, Jax flew over the city into an area where no one was paying any attention to them. Dun, dun, dun. I got a little lost there when the girls showed up. Like, I didn't realize at first that they were attacking the girl and her cronies were attacking Derek and Jax. But other than that, like, I don't know what to make of it. Like, obvi dystopian, obvi futuristic. The tech. Now I want to know, why does the boss want Rose? And who the fuck is Lucy?
This particular submitter always leaves us with more questions than answers. We have a lot of them that leave us with a lot of questions, but this particular submission is like, okay, first of all, why are they looking for Rose? Why is it so important they find Rose? Yes, who the fuck is Lucy? What does Lucy have to do with this? And why does this feel like a mid-grade Back to the Future, like Back to the Future 2, if it actually was good?
We have 2 requests to add who the fuck is Lucy into a prompt. Just put it in your story. You don't need.
But it's so much more fun when we have it as a prompt.
Yeah, but come on. 2026 is all about like challenging, right? Not only, hey, here's your prompt for the week, here is the voted on prompt for the week, but challenge yourself to go further, to expand farther, to do something more, right? So for January, we done sat here and said, here's your chance to be anonymous, okay? And prove to y'all that you can fucking write, all right? You can fucking write, you can fucking do it, you can fucking come up with the fucking stories and keep us all enthralled.
Yes.
And yes, it's a punctuation point at this point, my fucking F fucking bombs. Don't count how many times Izzy can use the word in a 60-second period because you'd be surprised. Now,
I think
that being said,
one night it was like 200 and something.
But that being said, Julie's got something. Okay, January with Fresh Ink was my idea, right? Right. Okay, great. Julie's original idea of Harvest the Words is what started all of this shit, right? Then we came up with Plotoween, okay? And then December was Solstice Scribes, okay? Start, build the social cultural structure of your world. And now we're starting over. January, boom. Julie's got something cooked up for February.
Yes, I do.
And she sent me some notes to go over with all of her freaking ideas, and there's one that I'm really liking, because I tell her all the time she's an evil fucking genius. She doesn't even realize when her characters force her to write herself into a oh my god light bulb moment. But yeah, so 2026 is all about challenging to increase your writing. It's not just about the numbers, right? If it were about the numbers, we'd still be reading out 5, 6, and 7,000 word submissions. And we're not doing that to Izzy anymore, right? So, with 2,500 words being your limit, get in there. Expand it. Make sure it says what you're wanting it to say. Craft your sentences. Craft your world. Craft your characters. And I love dialogue as great as, as much as the next person. But if we're going to be honest, it's easy to throw a piece of dialogue and have it mean absolutely anything. To craft a concept into something that's going to work in your world, that's challenging. To take a starting first line and throw it somewhere in your shit and rearrange it because it's exposition normally, that's where that challenge is. So come on, guys, up your game. You're already doing it these first 3 weeks.
Yo?
These first 3 weeks, you guys are fucking killing it. Edge of our seats.
Let's see who's going to hit us on the bait hook next.
Right? Like that, Doc.
$18.
Move. There we go. Ha 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 ha. Wish my cursor would move where it's supposed to. Ah, Bibokari. Okay. Okay. How does one so calmly explain that another person had just died? As if they were addressing the weather? Ian Calloway's face blanched from the root of his reddish hair to the stretch of his stubbled chin. No, he whispered. I am afraid so, Miss Eleanor Greystone replied. I have known the Thatchers since childhood. We tend those gravestones. Within the mausoleum? The mausoleum where Mr. Ryan Calloway rested. Sometimes Samael would fancy a detour, Ian explained, before the new restrictions were enforced. Miss Greystone, the mortician's daughter, fiddled too much with her purse. It made sense. The mausoleum was not a pleasant conversation to be had, especially as of late. Everyone grew hushed or antsy whenever the word was uttered, as if it were a boogeyman. Where would they bury Samael? His teeth gritted tight. Or would they just toss him in the watery Tam a yard or two away from their feet? Your father rests there, Miss Greystone whispered. I always found it odd. That a nobleman died? He asked, his volume unchanged. That a nobleman requested to be buried among his employees, she murmured. Her eyebrow twitched as though she might consider stinging him again. He kept his lily-white hands to himself. Ian shrugged, unperturbed. Father always loved his company. Why is that odd? Miss Greystone slid out her fan from her purse, but it remained closed. She twirled it around her fingers with skill. The woman must have seen someone beyond the murky Tarn? I can't. Tarn. Sorry. Need new glasses. Beyond the murky tarn, past the cobblestone walls, someone Ian had clearly overlooked in his hunt for answers. They continued their stroll, much to Ian's detest. He couldn't get distracted. He needed answers and a plan to expose her, to expose them. Noblemen love their business, Miss Greystone emphasized, shaking her head. Not father. You forget. He was an Irishman. His spirit craved interaction. Then he added, Sam loved interacting too. The brunette rolled her eyes, two perfect little orbs, a vibrant bronze color starched with skepticism. Samael loved interacting with books. She wasn't wrong, but the lethal cynicism in her tone forced him to look upward as they paused at the smelly lake. He hated the brine stench, but Miss Greystone would proclaim something whimsical, like the lake was a sanctuary from the shackles that awaited them back in their asphalt habitat. He loved his family, Ian argued. Is that supposed to impress me, Mr. Calloway? Ian shrugged, a nonchalant gesture he would never do out in public, but they seemed to be alone again. They are a handsome family, she allowed. Kind, even. His sister knit me a lovely scarf a few days ago. Do you detest noblemen, Miss Greystone? He noticed the sound of her pulling out her fan, a rare event. He observed as she carefully adjusted the fan, shifting it to her other hand, still shut tight. A reluctant yes, but a yes nonetheless. The knowledge of fans and what they meant were growing dead in their age, but the privy art was not completely lost. I see, he murmured. She, she gazed upon the water as they approached the crease where grass met mud. Do you know what they call me, Mr. Calloway? Who? The noblemen, Mr. Calloway. They have a name for those who worked with the deceased. And that is? Freaks, she muttered. We who make up the town are civil folk, Mr. Calloway, the Thatchers, the Greystones, the blacksmiths, the driftwoods, and all the rest that the board oh so loved to shepherd. The frogs and bugs around the murky waters chattered as Ian Calloway found himself horribly quiet. Nothing would change her mind. The noblemen were a seclusive bunch, but the commoners were also secretive. Why all the curfews and visitation restrictions? Yet Ian somehow always found himself in Miss Greystone's charming presence. He would sooner eat his own shoe, gopher hole dirt and all, before admitting how beautiful the sunlight looked against her face. Or was it the other way around? Ian needed to backtrack. Why the switch? He asked quickly. Lloyd saw an opportunity. He took it. And why has no one noticed? Miss Greystone held her chin upward. Men scoff at makeup, but it does wonders to befuddle the mind. You would never know I have a zit the size of a witch's wart. It was a fun project. Ian wiped his face, hiding the salty dots which had stung his eyes. He flicked them away. She was right about one thing. She was a talented makeup artist. The minx was almost too talented. She could make a dead man appear 1 second away from breath, and her reputation was the talk of the town. A peculiar Frenchwoman who could make a dead man appear seconds away from breathing. Sorcery. It's the truth. They were the same height, even the same build. A few different features here and there, but once you have him talk like a meek little librarian boy, it was as if the role was made for him. My friend, he growled, but the next words he uttered it choked with woe. Is not, was not. Your friendship was charming, the gentlewoman murmured. I almost envied it. Ian chuckled bitterly, turned his head, and stuffed his damp hand into his pants pocket. Really? She insisted. Morning coffee out in an impeccable garden as you managed your assets? Assets, he repeated. He snapped his attention back to her. This was an accident? Her expression fell aghast. Mr. Calloway, are you insinuating? I insinuate, Miss Greystone, he said without a drop of emotion. Pembroke is an important family to this town. To me. His mind was made up. There would be no truce, unless she could come up with something witty between those ears of hers. Of course not, the brunette hissed. She fidgeted with that damn fan. Again, it slammed open and closed like an unhappy, snapping alligator. He chuckled darkly. Miss Greystone continued in her hushed tone. What was it about anger that made women so... He stopped his train of thought. None of that. He saw an... I've seen better men try, he growled. He took a step closer. But now, Miss Greystone. If he was a cruel man to the reptilian creature before him, then so be it. He would protect what was his, even if it meant sacrificing this piss-poor friendship. What is stopping me from addressing this matter to the board? You wouldn't, she hissed. Then make your offer, Miss Greystone, he murmured against her ear. When had he gotten so close to her flaming cheeks? Throw me a bone of a pact and I might reconsider. Dun, dun, dun!
You gotta be shitting me.
No, we need more.
I'm like edge of my freaking seat. Like, okay. Quit fucking yapping. Do something. And then, don't.
We need more.
You're getting that uptight?
Shush and ask your questions.
Okay.
Hey, listen here, peanut gallery!
Mommy's getting upset.
He walks into the other room and goes, Mommy's gonna be upset. Oh.
We didn't ask the motherfucking peanut gallery!
We got enough of the peanut gallery. They're the comment section. No, not okay.
No, we are not okay. We are not okay.
We are fucking unhinged. Didn't you know that when you walked through the door? You signed a waiver. If you didn't sign a waiver, you get the the newsletter, which again is the
You
fucking
followed
winner.
us.
You
You
followed
followed us. You followed us, and you show up, and you joined the Discord, and you did all the things. Like
you're here for this unhingedness. Okay.
We got our own brand of
We're
unhinged.
of unhinged, controlled chaos. But we are down to 2 left. And let's see which one's going to emotionally unravel us next. Oh shit. Nine.
Okay. The cost of endurance. She was moving before she understood. The ground, uneven beneath her palms, was damp and yielding textured with things that shifted when her hands collided with the ground. Cold air burned the inside of her throat and lungs. Somewhere close, something snapped. Not loud, but intentional. Someone laughed. Not kindly, not nervously, almost demonically. The kind of laugh that came from knowing you wouldn't make it out alive. Her vision was wrong. The world came in slivers and shadows, light leaking through fabric that scratched against her skin. She tried to slow her breathing, tried to get her bearings in woods she'd ventured in as a child, but it only made the sound louder in her head. Everything was happening too fast, too desperate. Don't be dramatic, a familiar voice said nearby, amused and bored by her lack of pleading. Hands clasped around her arms, forcing her to a standing position, roughly guiding her forward. Let go! She screamed, trying to fight off what she couldn't see. Then the laughter faded, hands released with a violent shove, and footsteps retreated. The air changed, thickening around her like it was holding its breath, preparing for what was to come. She waited for someone to come back. No one did. Something moved nearby that didn't sound like a person. Her phone rang. For a split second, she wasn't in the woods, but she also wasn't in her bed. She was on the floor again, cheek pressed to carpet, lights too bright, the echo of her own breathing filling the space where another voice should have been. The phone rang again. She stared at it dancing across the nightstand, trying to decide if it was real or part of the dream, letting it ring twice more before answering. Hello? She tried to disguise the gruff panic in her voice. Good morning, a woman said, voice crisp and composed. This is Coach Reynolds. Oh, of course it was. I hope I'm not calling too early. No, she said. It's fine. A lie, but a practiced one. There was a pause on the line. Not awkward, measured. I wanted to ask you a few questions, Reynolds continued. Nothing urgent, but I'd prefer to do it in person. What's this about? The bile rose in her throat as she remembered the last time she had a very similar conversation with Carla Reynolds, which was Carla Thomas back then. Another pause, shorter this time. Something you may have noticed since joining the staff. Her fingers tightened around the phone. Okay. After last bell, Reynolds said. My office. The call ended before she could say anything else. She stared at the blank screen, waiting for the familiar spike of panic. It didn't come. Her pulse was steady, her breath controlled. Whatever this was, it wasn't courtesy. It was just another test. Hauling herself from the floor, she moved through her morning routine with deliberate calm. Coffee brewed, water heated, familiar motions anchored her to the present. Outside, the sky lightened inch by inch, streetlights clicking off one at a time as the sun climbed. On the roof of her apartment, she wrapped her hands around her mug and watched the city wake. Cars passed below. Someone laughed on the sidewalk. Normal sounds, normal lives. They didn't kill me before, she reminded herself. They won't hurt anyone now, not while I'm here. Coach Tanner didn't bother to look up when the door shut behind her. He leaned back in his chair, boots resting on the corner of the desk like they'd been there longer than the desk itself. Not posturing. Habit. The kind that came from knowing exactly how much space he was allowed to take, and that no one would challenge it. Coach Reynolds crossed the room and set her phone down on his desk. She's coming, she said. That got his attention. His gaze flicked to the phone, then back to her face. No pushback? None. Reynolds moved to the window, arms folding loosely as she watched students drift from their cars. She didn't ask why, didn't stall, just said she'd be there after last bell. Tanner smiled faintly. Good. Reynolds tilted her head, studying the reflection of him in the glass. You're not curious? I'm not surprised. She's new, Reynolds said. New people usually ask questions. They usually want to be helpful, Tanner replied. Especially the ones who think they're here to make a difference. Reynolds scoffed quietly. Or save someone. He chuckled under his breath. Same instinct, different packaging. She turned from the window then, leaning back against the desk, close enough that their knees brushed. They didn't react. They never did. 40 years of proximity had taught them which lines mattered and which ones had stopped existing. She listened, Reynolds said after a moment. That's what I don't like. Tanner's smile faded just enough to be real. Listening isn't a crime. No, she agreed, but it's how people start noticing patterns. He leaned forward, forearms on his thighs now. You think she's noticing us? I think she could, Reynolds said, if she decides to. And if she doesn't? Reynolds shrugged. Then she learns how things work here, like everyone else. And if she refuses? Her mouth curved, sharp and humorless. Then she won't last. Tanner nodded once, satisfied. They never do. Silence settled between them, comfortable, practiced. Outside the bell rang, echoing through the halls like a warning no one heard anymore. You're wound up, Tanner said. You always get like this before the first phase. Because the first phase is where things slip, Reynolds replied, before people remember the rules. They remember, he said. They just pretend they don't. Makes it easier for them to live with themselves. She watched the last of the students disappear into the building. You're sure the changes were enough? 2 stages instead of 1, Tanner said. More distance, less spectacle. It looks cleaner. Cleaner doesn't mean safer. It means survivable, he corrected. For us. Reynolds exhaled slowly. Phase 1 tonight, she said. Pep rally gives us cover. Always has, Tanner replied. And no one gets hurt, she added. He met her eyes. Not officially. She held his gaze longer than necessary. 1,000 shared memories passed between them, Chalk dust in locker rooms, whispered plans and sealed mouths, a history no one else could read. It's just harmless fun, Reynolds said softly. Tanner stood, closing the space between them, his voice dropping. That's what we've always said. They both knew better. The parking lot was already half full when she arrived. Engines idled longer than necessary. Students lingered in clusters, phones out, heads bent together in a way that felt rehearsed rather than casual. Someone laughed too loudly near the bike rack, then stopped the second a teacher stepped into view. The building hummed. Not noise, expectation. Inside, the halls smelled like floor cleaner and sugar. Posters had gone up overnight. Bold colors, block letters, lightning bolts, falcon claws, all declarations of school pride. Tonight's the night. The message was everywhere without ever being written. Pep rally this afternoon, a student said as she passed, voice pitched high with excitement. Last period shortened. Her shoulder brushed another girl's backpack, and the sensation hit her like a dropped plate. Nerves, hunger, a sharp pulse of wanting to be seen. She steadied herself against the lockers until it passed. The trophy case stopped her cold. It always did. Gold cups, framed photos, rows of smiling faces frozen in triumph. The pride of the school, polished daily, reverent as a shrine. Her vision blurred. Hands gripping fabric, the heat of bodies packed too close, the sickening thrill that rippled through a crowd when someone faltered and didn't immediately get back up. She forced herself to keep walking. By second period, the talk had sharpened. Cheer's doing something new this year. Coach says it's going to be intense. Heard they're calling people down onto the floor. She didn't ask who. She didn't need to. The school hummed with a restless energy. It crawled along the hallways, lingered in clusters of students who laughed too loudly, moved in teachers who avoided certain corners of the building. She passed faces that blurred with memory, expressions that echoed others she'd known long ago. She kept her head down, observed, listened. Did you hear about the rally? They're doing it early this year. Phase one's supposed to be easy. Easy was never the word they used when it mattered. Her chest tightened as she moved through the day. The patterns were the same. They always were. Anticipation masked as excitement. Fear reframed as tradition. Adults telling themselves it was better not to know. She passed Elliot near the stairwell. He slowed when he saw her. Their eyes met for half a second too long. Something flickered there. She gave him a polite nod and kept walking. By lunch, anticipation had turned brittle. Students ate fast like they were counting down to something rather than refueling. Teachers noticed, but dismissed it. Kids were always like this before a big game. In the counselor's office, the clock ticked louder than it should have. At 11:42 a.m., her inbox pinged. From R. Caldwell, subject, after school. Coach Reynolds will need to speak with you briefly today. Please make yourself available after last bell. Briefly. Because by 7 o'clock, the stands would be full. Because by then, whatever was set in motion would already be irreversible. She closed the email and looked out through the glass wall at the passing students. Faces bright with adrenaline, shadows trailing just a little too long behind them. Some of them wouldn't leave the gym the same. And someone, finally, had noticed that she knew it. Elliot Mercer noticed her before she noticed him. He always did. Not because she stood out. She didn't. She moved the way people did when they wanted to disappear into function. Clipboard close, shoulders squared, expression professionally neutral. Alive. That was the part that still didn't compute. She was standing at the copy machine when he passed the counseling wing. Her reflection briefly caught in the glass of a trophy case down the hall. The angle was wrong, the light unkind, but it didn't matter. Time folded in on itself. 20 years ago, she'd been thinner, quieter, afraid in a way that had never been taught, only learned. But she hadn't walked out of the woods that night. That had been confirmed. Elliot slowed just enough to confirm what his instincts had already screamed. Same scar at the hairline. Same way her jaw tightened before she spoke. Same presence, like a held breath that never quite released. She looked up then, caught him staring. Recognition flickered across her face, not clarity, but disturbance, a phantom memory tugging at something she hadn't touched in years. Sorry, he said mildly, adjusting the folder in his arm. You're Dr. Caldwell's new counselor, right? Yes. A pause. Have we met? No, he said, because it was true in every way that mattered. Then softer. But I think we've been in the same place before. Her breath hitched, just once. Before she could ask what he meant, a bell rang down the hall, sharp and insistent. Students poured past them, the moment swallowed whole. When she looked back, Elliot was already moving away, still watching. By fifth period, the air had turned electric. The pep rally wasn't until last period, but the building behaved as if it had already begun. Teachers lost the thread of lessons. Students vibrated in their seats. Anticipation layered over something darker. Fear sharpened into excitement. She felt it every time someone brushed past her. A boy near the lockers. Terror wrapped in bravado. A girl by the water fountain. Hope so desperate it made her chest ache. Another blank. Shut down. Already gone somewhere else. By the time the bell rang, the gym doors opened for the pep rally. The tension had settled deep into her bones. Phase 1 was coming, and this time she was awake for it. Sound hit her like a wave. Music thundered. Bleachers stomped in rhythm, bodies packed too tightly together, heat and emotion bleeding from one person to the next until it formed something singular. Anticipation. Her hands trembled. Not now. Not here. She grounded herself. Exit signs. The hard press of the floor beneath her shoes. Breathe in. Breathe out. Then she saw it. A row of folding tables had been set up along the gym wall. Aluminum trays lined neatly on top. Whipped cream piled high. Paper plates stacked beside them like props waiting for actors. Her stomach dropped. The cheerleaders took their places along the edge of the floor, clipboards in hand, smiles, sharp and expectant. One of them leaned toward the microphone, laughter rippling through the crowd before she even spoke. Names were coming next. The chants started, rising and falling in practiced rhythm. She didn't hear the words, only the intent behind them. Hunger. Permission. The crowd leaning forward, waiting to be told who. Her vision narrowed. Fabric against her mouth. A whispered countdown. Laughter when she didn't come back up out of the water fast enough. Phase 1. She staggered back, shoulder hitting concrete. A hand closed around her elbow, steady and immediate. Hey, Elliot murmured, already shifting between her and the gym floor. You don't have to stay. I'm fine, she said automatically. I know, he replied. That's why I'm offering. Something in his tone, calm, certain, cut through the noise. She nodded once. He blocked the sight lines as they moved, absorbing the attention so she didn't have to. To anyone watching, it looked routine. The side door closed behind them. Inside, the crowd roared as the first name was called. Phase 1 was officially underway. Coach Reynolds didn't waste time. When she saw her leave the gym, she stood with her arms crossed, red jacket pristine, smile fixed. Coach Tanner filled the space beside her, hands on his hips, ownership masquerading as confidence. She stood frozen when she'd seen the wall they created in front of her. We'll be quick, Reynolds said. We know you're new. Tanner's gaze swept over her, inventory, not interest. You've been attentive. I do my job, the counselor replied. Reynolds lifted her head. Then you understand why certain traditions stay internal, managed by people who know the stakes. And the risks? The counselor questioned. Tanner snorted. Kids are resilient. Some are, she said. Some aren't. Reynolds' smile thinned. You don't have the context to question this. I have enough. Tanner stepped closer. We're trying to help you fit in. Don't make this difficult. That explains more than you intended. The voice came from behind them. Elliot. Both coaches turned. You say that like I'm supposed to be impressed. Elliot continued calmly. I've seen better men try. Tanner stiffened. This doesn't concern you. Elliot glanced at the counselor, just long enough to confirm she was steady, then back at Tanner. It does now. Imply coercion to a licensed staff member again, and I start asking questions. And unlike you, I document. Silence fell, heavy and immediate. Reynolds' jaw tightened. We're done here. Yes, Elliot said mildly. You are. They left without another word. The counselor exhaled, hands still shaking. Thank you, she said. Elliot nodded quietly, leaning in for only her to hear. You weren't supposed to survive that. Her head snapped up, but he was already walking away.
Dun, dun, dun. Whew.
Okay, this high school thing has been from the very beginning. Okay, staccato. Almost sentence fragments in a way to keep the heartbeat shorter sentences. We know that thrillers and suspense, it has that shorter staccato worth of sentences. This submitter isn't letting up.
No, they're not.
From the very beginning. I mean, there's no suspense, really. It's just freaking, you know something bad is about to happen, and it just keeps getting hammered home that something bad is about to happen, but you just don't fucking know what. And you're sitting there trying to get a fucking breath, and you can't get fucking breath. Nah!
That's two. I believe it was explained in last week's submission that Elliot is the history teacher.
Oh. She turned off the camera.
That's never good.
Oh, number 9. Well done. I think you broke her. Whew. So far
this
we're
one got
at
2
2.
mute mics and a camera turn off.
Camera turn off.
which we haven't had in a while. So.
I think the last one we had was first show of the month for the camera turn off because it was me and Izzy.
I mean, Izzy turns camera off when she walks out of the room to make sure like nobody walks in on the camera and everything like that. But
yeah,
for this, yeah. So starting off strong. We actually only have one more left. So I'm interested to see how the Smitter9's going to use the prompt this week.
Yeah. Considering
the
options, I could see it going a few different ways. She went and got the alcohol. Oh boy. Smitter9, you wow. You got her to drink.
Yeah. Thankfully, Izzy does not have to work tomorrow, so we're good.
Straight.
Oh shit!
No, I saw the pour. Yeah, that's straight. Damn.
Yeah, I didn't know if she brought Coke or something in the room with her, or that was already sitting there. Nope, she's just gonna use it as a chaser.
Oh, that's good. Shit. Fuck. That's
What is it?
Tennessee Blackberry with a Dr. Pepper chaser.
Huh. Okay.
Shit. Oh. Okay. I'm fine.
We're not fine.
I'm fine.
We're not fine. Who we got next?
Last one. I do with this anyway, just so I can.
Yes, we like hearing the applause too.
Submitter 6.
Which one's Submitter 6 again?
I think Submitter is like the space opera kind of one. I think. I don't know if that's what the direction they went in this week, but Shay's like, everything's fine. I'm fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
You know, the last time it fined, somebody got yelled at off camera. I'm just pointing that out. But she's walked out of the room real quick. While we're getting everything set up, I'm gonna pop off camera real quick. I'll be right back.
So how's everyone enjoying their night so far? You enjoying the stories?
Sorry, my apologies. I had to go and put the bottle of Jack back away. Just please hold.
Glad to hear it. We've got this week's been pretty good. I'm glad to see everyone's enjoying the stories because they have been good. I think this is the most focus I've had all day. I have been having such a hard time focusing today. Work was absolutely like stressful because of it. Nice, Bitzer. But yeah, my ADHD was just peaking today.
Okay. I am back. Sorry. When we crack a new flavor that none of us have of any kind of anything that none of us have tried, whoever cracks it first winds up passing it around and we all try it to see, what everybody thinks. So, since I cracked it, had to go and do that. Okay. So we are Of course Bitzer's been working on the prompt this whole time. Because of course. This is dangerous. This is dangerous because I cannot drink Jack straight anymore. However,
Well, I'm wondering how that would taste with the blackberry Dr. Pepper.
that's what Will was just saying.
Oh, okay. At least one of the
Oh,
kids
yeah.
agreed. Like, I wonder how that tastes with that. I mean,
What I'm going to
obviously,
tell you,
Dr. Pepper, but
the two, like this with the chaser, it just, oh, not that we are advocating any kind of abuse of substances in any capacity. We are an adult show, but for those over the age of 18, please follow the laws of your land. Okay. Last prompter for episode 3 of season 3. You say that like I'm supposed to be impressed. I've seen better men try, I taunted him. It was the first time he flashed that smile, and I had to pretend that my knees weren't taffy. It was my first shore leave after my initial assignment. My unit was engaged in mock gladiator battles with a sister unit. It was done so that the troops could vent built up steam after battles with the Union forces. Cyan Kenny versus Garrett Miller. Take your places on the mat and prepare yourself for a fight. I jumped off the bleachers and watched as he stepped out from the opposite side. I squared my shoulders and stood in my corner, waiting on him. What have we here? Farm girl going for citizenship? It was shit talk. It wasn't clever. I wasn't a farm girl, but he was right about my trying to become a full citizen. Not everyone can be born to a wealthy family. I crossed my arms and smirked. Look at that jawbone. You only get that from gene mods. You think I got this being modded? Oh, baby girl, if you only knew. He oozed, picking up on the fact he had gotten under my skin. I glimpsed perfect white teeth as he placed his guard in his mouth. I did the same as I flipped my hand under my chin at him. He rested his hands on his hips and shook his head, a dimple forming on one of his cheeks. I turned around and toward my buddy, Jan. He placed his hands on my shoulder, looking me in the eyes, hyping me up. I know this guy. He thinks he's some hot shit. He emphasized his accent to help lighten my mood. He knew how I could get, and there was a good possibility I might take the match seriously. You know what, though? You're hot as shit. That's right. You're bullshit. We all are. Don't take it seriously, and go kick his entitled ass. In his attempt to make himself so serious he was funny, he made a good point. As far as society was concerned, all of us Imperial Navy and Marines were less than. Even those of us who were gene mods, like me and Garrett. Pot, meat kettle. In the name of the Empress and the Starlight Empire, go forth in her name, the AI announced, starting the match. I had to control myself as we began circling each other, taking turns, feigning and psyching the other out. We met in the center of the mat. I hit first, hitting him in the ribs. He'd kick. I blocked. I would punch. He'd swipe my arm away. After that first hit, I couldn't get another in, but he wasn't able to get one on me at all. It felt like a pretty even match, but the AIs knew what they were doing when matching for scrimmage fights like this. I questioned the AI and her matching process. I kicked again, this time aiming for his feet with the intent of knocking him down. He fell. Hard. Oof, Garrett involuntarily said, his mouth guard popping out and landing to the side. I took advantage of the situation, jumping on his chest and pinning his biceps with my knees. He didn't struggle, but he hadn't been knocked out either. A wink and a smile made me realize what was happening. He was throwing our match. Don't you dare! I growled at him, the thing in my mouth making it hard to talk. Try and stop me. You try anything, you'll be placed in the brig for 2 standards while you're court-martialed. He looked me dead in the eyes, even though he was grinning. His brows made him look dead serious. You're just trying to distract me, I replied. Am I, cutie? His entire body went slack, making him look like he had passed out. I could feel him breathing under my thighs, and I knew he was faking it. He was going to pretend he had been knocked out, giving me the match. I got angrier. I climbed off his chest and walked to the corner where Jan was waiting. He saw my face and stood, walking up and looking directly at me. He threw the fucking match! I spit the plastic out of my mouth and onto the ground, the rage growing within me. Wait, what? How? He's one of the strongest in the battalion, if not the strongest. You're an engineer and soldier. You weren't made for that kind of strength. He never takes it easy on anyone. He should have wiped the floor with you. Jan was right. I hadn't been engineered for the kind of strength Garrett had as infantry. He also called me beautiful. What the actual fuck? That's harassment, right? I could go to the XO and report him. I bristled. I was a soldier. I couldn't be beautiful. Or could I? I was in disbelief over the entire incident. He's trying to get under your skin, and it's working. I would let it go, Cyan. It makes no sense. He's not acting like himself. He continued to drone on about Garrett. I like Jan. I like his accent. It allows me to do caricatures. I love it. Okay. One of the strongest ground pounders in the battalion was taking it easy on one of the brains. Jan was right. It made no sense. I woke up to the sound of the intercom chirping, the screen displaying O2's designation. They were right outside the door. I was covered in sweat from the nightmares I had when I tried to sleep. Our mission was straightforward. Get into the Union's home system, drop our payload, and get home. No questions, no knowing who the other person was. We were supposed to remain anonymous, not allowed to have any small talk or say anything that might make us identifiable to the other. Easy peasy, as my mother used to say. That's what I thought at the time. We had passed by their system security with no issues, both in and out of Union territory. We had made it to the drop-off point with no issues. It was almost unnerving how easily the mission had gone. Harriet didn't help with her insistent countdowns and check-ins with the two of us. The AI was starting to get irritating with her vague answers to my questions. Harriet, what are they wanting? I asked. When we were in our quarters, she was our go-between for messages. Otherwise, we risked mission security. It was all very excessive. O2 is trying to alert you of an issue with the singularity drive. We have dropped out of our meta space bubble and are drifting in open space. Her disembodied voice filled my room. Please keep giving me AI and robot voices to do. Please, people. I like it. I like it. Wow, the BlackBerry is hitting really hard, really fast. Oh my God. Whoa!
That was quick.
That's what straight does.
I know.
Ah. I shook my head, trying to get the sleep out of my eyes. I blinked, sitting up from my bunk, my power suit sitting in pieces on the floor next to my bed. Tell them to stay alert. I'll meet them on the command deck in about 5 minutes. I ran my fingers through my short bob as I got up and walked over to the half closet that called itself a latrine. The small bathroom made me feel claustrophobic, despite the fact I left the narrow door open when I voided my system. I got my suit on and ran up to the command deck. O2 was seated in the commander's chair, their body language betraying their boredom. What happened? I asked, bewildered. I don't know. I looked at the engine with what little I know, it looks like it's something with the flux capacitor. They lazily motioned towards the engineering deck with their hand, then returned their attention to the data pad in their hand. Their fingers flew across the keyboard on the screen as they were typing something, more than likely a E letter to someone back home in the Empire. It was against protocol, but I let it go. I had larger issues to deal with. I'm going back to look at the engine and see if I can do anything to get it back up and running, I said as I left and ran down the corridor, down 2 levels and through the entry to the engine room. I stood in front of the bulky mechanism, looking into the center where the flux capacitor sat. I peered in, and as I turned the machine off, watching as arcs of electricity died and the lights dimmed, finally going dark. I set a timer for 5 minutes and waited, watching to make sure there were no more electric charges before I started to work on it. Once my timer went off, I removed my gauntlet just long enough to feel the metal, knowing it was going to be safe to work on. It was cool to the touch, so I opened the glass and reached in, pulling the flux mechanism out, turning it around in my hands and inspecting it. Some of the spokes leading from the central hub had popped off, the shoddy manufacture work blatantly obvious. I dropped it on the table in frustration after I opened the small cabinet where the spare parts were supposed to be. I took a deep breath. I realized there was no spare flux capacitor or even hobble parts to fix it enough to get us home or till Harriet could print a new part. I paced for a few minutes, fuming and trying to think. I could have sworn I had double checked the bay being full before we had left, but it was obviously empty. That was when I decided to see if I could get the spokes out of the machine and try to put the capacitor back together and hope that it held. I asked Harriet to deploy one of her drones. After a few minutes, a small disc shaped object floated in and hovered in front of me. Go into the singularity drive's core and retrieve the spokes that fell off. I knew that reassembling the broken capacitor would be risky, but it was the only option we had. It was the only option that I had. I knew O2 would get irritable if I told him we would be crippled for almost a week. They had already proven that they had a very short temper when it came to us getting through this assignment and back to the Empire. I just wanted to get us home and not have to spend any more time with O2 than I had to. We now know that O2 is her beloved Garrett. Okay. Sorry. The drone came out of the drive, all the missing spokes in its tiny graspers. It dropped them all in my hand, and I gently placed them on the workstation and set to putting the pieces back together like a puzzle. Harriet, secure the door so I can take my gauntlets off and work on this part, I announced to the room. the hiss of the interlocks keeping the doors from sliding open and allowing my shipmate to see my hands and my dermal ring. Both things that could be identifiers that would give my identity away. The drone continued to hover close to my shoulder, waiting for more orders from me as I leaned over the table and set to work. I finished the first step of figuring out which spoke went where and placing it in order around the central part of the unit to make sure I kept everything correct. I need more light. I motioned to the drone who floated over the table and showed its flashlight onto the table. Thanks, I said as it chirped. AIs were at least polite. I turned, walking to the tool cabinet mounted on the wall. Reaching in, I grabbed a micro spanner and a soldering tool as I said the first of many prayers to the Empress. My hopes of getting us home depended on 5 broken pieces of metal that I had to reattach. I removed my helmet, took a deep breath, and set to work. 3 hours later, the flux capacitor was fixed, and I was exhausted. The important part is that the job has been finished. I gave myself a few minutes to stand and stretch the muscles in my neck and back before I put my helmet and gauntlets back on. I then told Harriet she could unlock the door, the bolt sliding to the open position. I looked down at the display on my arm, noticing that an E letter from Garrett was flashing. I smiled to myself as I dismissed the notification, saving reading and responding till I could relax in my room. Sans power armor. Bow, chicka, wow, wow. I wanted to be able to be myself when I thought of him and going home to him. We had both submitted our requests to de-enlist right after we had gotten married, our desire to start our lives together finally winning. I picked up the part, placed it in its spot in the engine's body, and closed the glass. I stepped back as I flipped the switch to turn it back on. The initial whine of the engine turning into a steady heartbeat as the Singularity drive came back to life. It had worked. We we would be headed home. I ran up to the command deck to tell O2. The command deck was empty. They must have gone back to their quarters, something I would have done in their position. I shrugged, taking a seat at the nav station and setting in our course, a quick back and forth with Harriet, and I decided that taking us through the Epsilon Boots system would be the quickest route back to the Empire. I slid the controls, releasing the navigation to the AI, and watched as we entered back into metaspace as the bubble enveloped us and we resumed our course. I sat, clutching the display as the view screen showed me our progress. I sighed. We were in the clear. The Empress had answered my prayers. A little longer and I could relax. I'd be able to head to my quarters and let Harriet drive while I went to lay back down in my bunk and read Garrett's letter. Once I felt comfortable that everything was under control, I made my way back to my quarters. Securing the door behind me, I stripped the top half of my armor and pulled up the e-letter from Garrett. The letter was all about how much he missed me and included 2 poems he'd written, inspired by me, of course. He was always writing poems. I had just started to read when the ship suddenly threw me from the bed. I knew he had dropped out of the metaspace again. We were fucked! My repair didn't work as well as I would have liked. I pulled my armor on and ran back to engineering. I was going to have to try and tinker with the drive again. Dun dun dun! Oh! Bow chicka wow wow! power armor off, getting a little button rub. Oh, yes, I said that out loud because, whiskey.
As the designated developmental editor here, we got a small problem, and I want this writer to know, because either it's something that they haven't explained yet, and they might need to later on down the line if they continue with it, or it might have been something that they just kind of overlooked. In the last installment, which we read out on Wednesday night, the rings were going off, the dermal rings, that either let.
Doesn't mean they've been submitted in order.
Well, no, I completely understand that.
Just so that we put that caveat in, that this could be a section of the story prior to what we read off. So, just putting that out there, that they'll want to make sure that the sections are in the right order. I see where you were going with that. Oh my God.
She mentioned right before what we read out on Wednesday night, as they get closer together, the rings go off. Or when the other one's thinking of the other one, the ring is going off. The ring wasn't going off. That's what I'm getting at.
When he was writing the e-letter, he was thinking about her. We now know that he and she. Ooh, nice catch.
Also,
this is what we do.
Together, the author also said when they get closer together from Wednesday night's read, that the rings go off to let them know that they are in proximity.
Oh, you're right. Huh.
That's what I said. I'm not trying to bust the bubble here, but as the resident developmental editor,
you're over there. Sorry. You're over there. Got a good point. See, I'm good with grammar of individual sentences and paragraph structure. Julie catches the frickin' developmental errors with floating characters, and except in her own shit, because we all do that. So we got to do that for her. But anyway, yes. So again, this goes back to, right, when this is all said and done, if it's not for a submission, this is what we do. We don't offer it unsolicited, except in this point, in this time, yes, you're getting it unsolicited, just in case you didn't know, whoever you are. Okay, Julie and I know who this person is, but we're not sharing. So whoever you are, might want to look at that in your...
I mean, I know who they are, too.
I know. Sorry, I'm just so used to saying me and Julie. Back when we were together all the frickin' time at the bowling alley or wherever, and people were like, where's Kesh? And people were like, where's Izzy? Yeah, it just, everybody said Kesh and Izzy, except using the names we went by back then. So, pardon me. Yes, the three of us know who this author is, but this is that next step of what we do in the Discord, right? If you say, hey, can you read this and tell me what's what? Julie's your developmental editor who can tell you where your floating characters are, where your plot holes are, things like that. I sometimes catch them. I'm the one you go to for grammatical sentence structure. And that last one with all the staccato, give a bitch a chance to fucking breathe. Slow down the staccato, please and thank you. But yes, we're here for you. All of y'all. The same way you would be there for us if we were saying, hey, I need help. But we're not going to do it unsolicited. You got to actually ask.
But while we're in this particular space, it'd be like, ooh, wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Like, it might be something that wasn't explained yet on why the ring's not going off.
Yeah.
But
good point.
This was something that was previously put out in last week's when the ring started going off. So I'm like, okay, is this because they're in an emergency or what? Like, I don't know, but I'm just putting it out there. We got a problem or potential problem.
Potential problem can be readjusted. Interessante. Maybe adjusting. And this is where world rules are important. If you have magic or you have tech in your world, I don't care who you are, you have to know if it's hard magic or soft magic, or if it's hard tech or soft tech. Are you going to explain the rules of your world? Because let's be honest, magic is just science that hasn't been understood yet. You got to decide, hard or soft.
Hand wavium must be consistent.
You know, it's always a flick and swish, but you know, we saw what happened if you don't flick and swish right. You blow yourself up and you never get your rum.
Or whiskey. Okay. Hell to the fuck yeah. Please, y'all. Keep giving me caricatures to read. I like yawn. I don't know if that's how that was pronounced. It was J-A with a little circle over top. But I love the way he talk.
I would have gone yawn.
We all shit. This is what he make you do think. He think he going to get into your head. Please give me the caricatures. Please.
I think
love
it's funny
those accents.
because he turned around and was like, we all shit. Now go show me your bigger shit. And then as she's coming back, he's like, but he should have beat your ass. I'm like, yeah,
That was funny.
I like yawn. Let me go back real quick, just because this is. I know this guy. He thinks he's some hot shit. You know what though? You're hotter shit. That's right. You're bullshit. We all are. Don't take it seriously and go kick his entitled ass.
Right. And then it was like, well, why would he do that? He's supposed to wipe the floor with you. And I'm sitting there like, you just said that she was the shit. And then I'm like, no, I knew you were going to lose.
You hotter shit. You hotter shit. He think he's shit. You hotter shit. Give me the rednecks to voice, please. Give me the rednecks. Give me the Russians. But you gotta put it. You can't have proper English in your dialogue if it's got an accent. Okay, I've had a couple of people now during this whole entire process of January Fresh Ink, and even December and November, I started to notice it. When you have a distinct accent during the dialogue, you have to almost modify the language. You know, when Julie and I talk in redneck, we drop off the G's in ing words, and it's in apostrophe, right? The instant you put a verb in apostrophe, I know to drop off the G and start to talk like I am hillbillies are us. please give me more practice, because at this current point in time, there may be a possibility of narrating a certain shifter romance featuring Gemini twins. We'll see, though. I may not be the right person for it. Yes, hillbillies are us. Look, I'm a redneck and I'm proud of it. And I may also be a little tipsy. Hey, Julie, save me from myself.
Sorry, I was trying to get food in my mouth. Shush. Shush. Izzy's gone. Okay. Thank you guys so much for coming in and got to go adult. It's overrated. I mean, we all do it, but it's like it's overrated. Shit. Is Izzy okay? Are you? She's down. Never mind. She got the button. Anywho's, thank you very much for joining us on the Sunday night. Come back again next week, same bat time, same bat channel, and see what other shenanigans we get our asses into. Because let's face it, yes, Izzy's right. We're a bunch of rednecks. You know, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Except this wasn't Jack. This was automatically 4. In process. Are you gonna be good? Are you tangled? Are you good? Are you sure? Stop laughing. Izzy, can you get up? You're good? Okay. Coming and joining us with our shenanigans. Back next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Right before we leave out, we will be announcing what next week's prompt is. It looks like the newsletter will be out tomorrow. What? Newsletter will be out tomorrow. I got to get over here to the page.
Ooh, Felix! Felix is on my screen.
Oh, God. Okay.
See Daisy.
Writing from.
Ooh, got up.
Okay. This week's writing prompt, if you choose to use it, is whatever you're going to ask. The answer is no. Submitted by, yes, the fearless leader. So, all right. We're gonna go ahead and head out. I will see you guys next week.
I have to lead out.
Join the Discord for more this. More this.
Oh my Lanta.
Okay. Bye, guys. I'm not even gonna do the be brave, be bold, but always stay humble. We'll see you guys next week. Bye. Izzy, hit the button.
And push.